yeah, I'm a cis white male, and I'll hug a man in a minute because I love them. You know, they're my friends. What I want to be able to do as a cis straight white male is to be able to show that, you know, I can give affection, and because I like the connection with men. It has no sexual attraction to it. It has nothing to do with sex, but it has to do with physical connection. And we've lost that, I think, is the ability to connect physically with other people. And I just think it's important whenever I talk about that, is that, again, it breaks down the barriers. It's not the single story. The single story is that cis straight white males don't hug men. Well, this one does. And I think there are others.
As I started this journey of forgiving myself for not knowing something, for not understanding something, it's almost like I then gave myself permission to be the person I always wish I had growing up. I wish there was some older version of me that looked at me and said, you're beautiful and you're loved and you're not unworthy, you're not undesirable. The things that you've taught yourself or that you've conditioned yourself to believe, that's not the truth. That's not your truth.
The common thread that all the performers brought to the stage was their true selves. If you can stand up in front of an audience and create art, tell a story, be vulnerable and stand in the truth and the power of yourself, that permeates, that radiates. That's the energetic glitter. That's where the magic happens. So that's what starts to spread, and on a human level, people connect to that. So whether you have a member of the LGBTQ plus community who's standing up there telling their story of growing up in rural Kentucky, the people in the audience were able to find pieces of themselves in every single person's story. So here are these very vulnerable things being shared about abortion and abuse and what it's like to grow up in Kentucky, to be different. And people were able to connect to that very human thread that at the core we're all the same and it's all love. So you could feel almost a wave of unconditional love wash over people. And I think that's the impact of what happens when we tell these kind of stories and out loud and stand in our truth. Other people can see themselves, even in a person they might have thought they had nothing in common with.
But they thought, unfortunately rightly so, that attacking the trans community was something they could use to get some cheap political points, because so many folks have LGBTQ people broadly in their lives, but not enough folks have had trans people in their immediate family, in their close circle of friends, in the workplace. Now, certainly many more than did before, because so many more folks have been coming out, sharing their authentic identity. But you know, that's an old playbook, is to take a small and marginalized community and to basically create a series of outrageous exaggerations and lies about that community to then use at the ballot box. And that's what we saw getting churned out. And the reason that you know that it's a national strategy is because none of these issues were homegrown.
Performing my story live was wonderful. I got to perform it in front of my best friend, and she was one of the main characters of my story, and it started a really honest conversation about our friendship, about how much we love each other and how we can support each other as women. Not only did I feel like it brought me closer to the community of women I already have in my life, but it actually opened up a conversation between me and my mom. And I was able to tell my mom about my abortion, and she didn't judge me. She actually just heard me and listened. And that took such a weight off of my chest. And I don't think I would have ever naturally told her if it wasn't for the show. I don't think anyone can listen to my story and say I made the wrong move. Especially the fact that I am such a wonderful mother to my 2 daughters. Like, you can't tell me that getting my abortion wasn't an essential step in my life, because I wouldn't be where I am today, sober, in love, married, and with my children.
Everyone wants to be known and to know other people, and that's not a trans thing, that's a human thing. And it's very easy for politicians to turn you into an other. And when you're in a group that has been turned into an other, it's very, very easy to find yourself the target of not just bigotry, but also hate and harassment and sometimes violence. The reason that I came out in the first place was because there were dozens and dozens of people in my life who, as far as I knew, had never had a meal or shared a drink or even been in the same room with a trans person. So part of my coming out was saying, surprise, turns out you do already know and love a trans person. And that's probably the case for a large percentage of people in this state. A lot of people say that love is the opposite of hate. I don't think I agree. I think that empathy is the opposite of hate, because when you hear someone's story from their own mouth and you're able to empathize with them, it is very, very hard to hate them.
Living life in its most authentic form is the most rewarding thing that you can do for yourself. And I think it's the greatest gift that you can give to anyone else, because what you're doing, whether you realize it or not, is you're giving people the freedom to be themselves. We talk about making changes, that we always have to wait. But I refer to that window of time that we have here. Like, we don't have forever. In the world that my son and that other people deserve, it's not one that I want to wait on.
I do have a one-woman show called Clam. It covers it all. IVF, pregnancy, miscarriage, aging, breast surgery, bodily autonomy, and finally abortion. A lot of people got really emotional. I even had one woman approach me and tell me she wanted to have an abortion, but was told she couldn't, so she had the child, and now her child is grown, and now she feels like she's starting her life. And she was giving a lot of incredible commentary about like parental guilt and doing the right thing and her faith. Never thought about that particular perspective ever until she was in my arms after a show.
How I choose to handle that is I act in my personal life. I make an impact starting with myself, and I let that spread and filter out. I do what I can with my family, with my children, with the students that I teach, with my community, with the work that I do in the world. How I impact the world in my own heart, in my own house, in my own community, and that's how it spreads out. So I personally choose love and choose advocacy to stand in what I believe in, and trust that impact will be made by me showing up as my authentic self from a heart-centered space. That's how I can enact the most impact politically, socially, in the lives of my family and my community and the people I work with through my work.
I don't care who you are. I don't care who you. I don't care. I don't care. Be a good human to me. I'll try to be a good human to you until you treat me otherwise. That other stuff is just stuff to get people aggravated and bicker and be a good human. Period. We all have scars. Every one of us. You may not all see them. We all have them. And some are deeper that you can't see.